and you will atone.
Hey, welcome back, Better Call Saul fans. My question for you today is, in the remaining 4 episodes, is Saul Goodman going to atone for his sins? Will he regret what he's done? Will he show any remorse before the show is over? We're also going to go over 15 of the biggest sins that he's committed that he needs to atone for, in my mind. Now, as we just saw in that clip, in the beginning scene of this glorious show, we see Jimmy McGill imitate Ned Beatty from the movie Network, where he says, "You will atone," to Mr. Howard Hamlin. As I've said before in previous videos, it's ironic because Howard Hamlin, throughout the series, did actually atone for his transgressions. He took Chuck's side for the entirety of season 1, and he did not stick up for Jimmy, even when Jimmy passed the bar, or when Jimmy got the Sandpiper case. And of course, he stuck Kim in doc review as punishment for one of Jimmy's schemes that Kim had no role in. But throughout seasons 4 and 5, we really saw Howard try and make amends for his mistakes. He went to counseling, he offered Jimmy a job, he apologized to Kim, he tried to atone for the mistakes that he made. And now, by the end of season 6, episode 9, Fun and Games, spoiler alert, if you have not gotten that far, you should stop watching this video. But at the end of that episode, we see that Kim Wexler realizes the trail of destruction caused by their relationship. The lives that they've ruined, the harm that they've caused, and the endless need for more scams, more lies, and more pain was finally too much for Kim to take, and she took responsibility for all of that into her own hands. And she did that by saying goodbye to the man that she had the time of her life with, and she said goodbye to a career that she loved, filled with people who desperately needed her help. Not because she necessarily wanted to, but because some part of her, inside of her, was telling her that she needed to take responsibility for her actions, and this was one of the ways that she could do that. But you know who hasn't had this type of come to Jesus moment? Who hasn't fully accounted for all of his mistakes? Jimmy McGill, Saul Goodman. In a show about characters coming to terms with who they are and what they've done, Saul has refused to take responsibility or to make amends for his various misdeeds. Now, what are those misdeeds, you might ask? I'm going to give you a quick reminder, and no, this is not exhaustive, so feel free to add any that I missed in the comments section below. Let's get started with them. The way I've structured this is I've got 15 things here. Some of them I'm going to have video clips, others I'll just have images and talk over it. Some might be a little short, and then some might be a little bit longer. Let's jump into it. Number 1, convincing that woman that he was Kevin Costner.
If you're committed enough, you can make any story work. I once convinced a woman that I was Kevin Costner, and it worked because I believed it.
You are not Kevin Costner.
I was last night.
And so the first clip that we saw was obviously a Breaking Bad clip, and then they completed that arc scene for us in Better Call Saul, where he convinces this poor woman with Marco that he is Kevin Costner. So, man, really sleazy thing to do, but it was great to see this come full circle. The second thing that Saul needs to atone for is playing the bagpipes and not flushing in Cliff Main's office.
Jimmy, what's going on in there? Jimmy!
Oh, you can hear this through the door?
Situation in the washroom. Someone is not flushing. Once is an accident, maybe even twice, 3 times, that's a pattern.
And we're not talking about a number 1.
Yes, thank you, Aaron. Now, I'm not here to shame anyone, nor to even want to know who did it, but...
Cliff, it was me.
Jimmy, I just said I didn't want to know.
Hey.
I just gotta say, poor Cliff Main. He took a chance on Jimmy after Howard and Chuck didn't want him at HHM, and he's giving him everything that he could want in a job in the law. A beautiful office, an expensive desk, an assistant, a nice car, and I think they even paid for his housing as well. But Jimmy's not happy, he feels stifled, and he wants out. And so realizing he can't keep his sign-on bonus if he quits, he plots his way to get fired by doing at least 2 of those things that I showed above, but he did even more than that. So he was just a big pain in the butt to Cliff Main, and Cliff did not deserve it at all. Number 3, all of the Slippin' Jimmy cons that he did with Marco. Slip and Jimmy and Marco had a number of cons, and I know we don't see all of them, but they routinely con people out of money with their schemes. Not life-changing amounts of money, but when you lose a few bucks on a scam, it hurts, and Jimmy and Marco did not care as long as they got their thrills, as well as a few bucks in addition to that. Number 4, they ruined Irene's friendship circle at Sandpiper. This was another innocent person that Jimmy hurt, Irene Landry, the representative for the class action lawsuit with Sandpiper. Jimmy convinces her friends that she's getting extra benefits for delaying the lawsuit, making it look like she's rolling in the dough when in reality she is not, and creating resentment towards her very purposefully. This all leads to her friends turning their backs on her and not accepting her into their social circle. I should add, though, on this point, that Jimmy actually did make amends for his actions by having a conversation with Aaron Brill outside while all the Sandpiper residents are listening while they're doing their fitness class. So you could say he actually made amends here. Number 5, scamming people with Kim.
Please tell me it went well.
Yeah, it went well.
Very well? Like very, very?
Beyond our wildest, yeah.
Here's another example of the low-level cons that Jimmy used to participate in. And you could make the argument that if Kim and Jimmy had stopped here and only done these types of cons, they still might be together. Perhaps they could go up to Santa Fe where no one knew them and do some cons at bars or country clubs. They'd have their small thrills, which would bring them together and keep them happy. But of course, we all know they did not stop there. And we'll get into some of their bigger cons later on. Number 6, bringing Rebecca to Chuck's trial. This was really heart-wrenching when you really think about what's going on here. And don't worry, we're going to get to Chuck later. But in the episode Chicanery, Season 3, Episode 5, we see that Jimmy invites Rebecca to the hearing that they're having. She does not need to be there, and Jimmy knows exactly what he's doing. He's trying to trigger Chuck with the sight of Rebecca, and he's also trying to make what's going to happen even more painful to Chuck. He succeeded, and after it all goes down, Rebecca comes to Jimmy afterwards to help Chuck out because Chuck is resisting help. And Jimmy does not offer any help when Rebecca asks. So not only does Rebecca have to see Chuck's meltdown in the court, she also has to deal with it afterwards, and she has to be involved with these brothers feuding. It's a really terrible situation for Rebecca to be stuck in, and it's all because Jimmy put her there. Number 7, lying to the Albuquerque State Bar about Chuck.
I'll do everything in my power to be worthy of the name McGill. And if you decide I'm not a lawyer, doesn't matter. I'll still try to be the best man that I can be.
Yes, they have to reinstate you. Right?
Yeah, did you see those suckers? That one ass was crying. He had actual tears. Jesus, Kim.
Now, when Jimmy was trying to get back into the law, he knew he needed to bring his relationship with Chuck to the forefront, or else they would not think he was sincere about his regrets. And so as we've seen in that clip that I just played, Jimmy completely fakes all of the feelings that he had in that hearing, and he is just trying to one-up the bar association by lying to them, and it succeeds. It absolutely succeeds for him. Number 8, getting Francesca to pretend that Marie Schrader was in a car accident during Breaking Bad.
Sir, this is Officer Elaine Tanner with the Albuquerque Police. Is your wife Marie Schrader?
Yes, why?
I'm sorry to inform you that your wife's been in an automobile accident.
This was back in Season 3 of Breaking Bad, where Walt and Jesse find themselves trapped in an RV with Hank right outside. Walt comes up with one of his genius plans, calls Saul, and before we know it, we see the clip that I just played with Francesca pretending to be a police officer, telling him that Marie is being airlifted to a hospital in a really bad car accident. Number 9, helping Walt steal the Ricin cigarette, leading to Brock's poisoning. Who can forget this scene where Huel, at Saul's instructions via Walt, stole the Ricin cigarette from Jesse, leading to Jesse thinking that he had accidentally poisoned Brock. Now, Saul claims subsequently that he didn't know what Walt would do to Brock, but Saul still did help out on this scheme. Number 10, unwanted sexual comments to Francesca.
Hey, Francesca, how about I follow you home?
No.
For safety. What? God, you are killing me with that booty.
Enough said on that one. Number 11, money laundering for Walt and Jesse.
2 words: nail salon. It's perfect for money laundering. It's a high volume, cash preferred business with a discreet workforce. I mean, nobody does misdemeanor nothing better than Mrs. Mukjayaporn and her gals.
Mr. Goodman.
Now, we aren't sure of all of the ways that Saul made money in Breaking Bad, but this is likely the top one, especially with all the money that Walt and Jesse were pulling in. And needless to say, this is illegal, so do not try this at home. Number 12, encouraging murder multiple times.
Why don't you just kill Badger?
One day he showed up rabid, and little Timmy, for Old Yeller's own sake, had to, you saw the movie.
Have you given any thought to sending him on a trip to Belize?
It's hard to believe that Jimmy McGill, the often understood but never violent guy that we grew to love, could somehow callously recommend murder, and not just once. We see in those clips that I just played, he recommends that Walt and Jesse murder Badger. He recommends that Walt put down Jesse like a rabid dog, and that was back in season 5 of Breaking Bad. And of course, he tells Walter to send Hank to Belize, the same place that Mike went. Number 13, becoming a bagman for the cartel. I've talked about this in a previous video, but Jimmy had the chance to say no to Lalo's request that he go retrieve that $7 million of bail money in the desert. Jimmy originally said he would not do it, and Lalo was completely fine with that, reading his paper, no issue with Jimmy walking out and leaving. But Jimmy's greed got the best of him. He asked for and got $100,000 for his trouble, and he stepped up in his work with the cartel. Number 14, Howard's death. This scheme, which was led by Kim, but it was also followed to a T by Jimmy. Yeah, it did seem in my mind that Kim wanted this more than Jimmy. But if at any point in this, arc, Jimmy had put his foot down and said that this isn't a good idea, that Howard does not deserve this, then I really think Kim would not have continued. It would have been the end of it. But Jimmy knew Kim wanted it, and let's be honest, he wanted it too. He wanted to stick it to Howard, and he wanted to make Kim happy, and the result was tragic. Number 15 is his entire relationship with Chuck. There are so many troubling and heartbreaking moments in Chuck and Jimmy's relationship. I don't want to go too in-depth on this video on this point, so for now, let's just name some of the biggest sins that Jimmy committed against Chuck. First, switching the numbers from 1261 to 1216, and thereby messing up the filing that Chuck was working on for Mesa Verde. That sabotaged Chuck's business, but more importantly, it was the beginning of the end of their relationship. It was really the point of no return.
It is 1261.
1261. I think if you double check, you'll see that 1216 is correct.
Next, in the courtroom scene, when they're discussing whether to disbar Jimmy, Jimmy gets Huel to plant a cell phone battery in Chuck's pocket, which is in there for an hour and 43 minutes, before Jimmy reveals it to the court, sending Chuck into a spiraling chicanery speech.
I am not crazy! You think this is bad? This chicanery?
Even after that, though, Jimmy's not done with Chuck. When Jimmy is finding out that his insurance rates are going up due to his suspension, he can't keep his mouth shut and he needs to stick it to Chuck. So he shares that Chuck recently had a meltdown in court, which then leads to Chuck and HHM's insurance rates going up drastically.
My brother is sick.
Is this your brother Charles?
He's making mistakes with his clients. He's mixing up numbers on important documents. He had a complete mental breakdown at the bar hearing.
And we find out later that this was really the last straw that led to Howard to suggest retirement to Chuck. And Chuck, not knowing what to do with his life without being involved in his law practice, which that was his life. He ends up committing suicide after that. Phew, that was quite the list, and I know I'm missing some. I just didn't want to make this video, 2 hours long. So feel free to add anything else that you think is a big that I missed in the comments below. Needless to say, Jimmy McGill and Saul Goodman have been quite busy. Now, after all of this, I cannot imagine that Gene does not come to terms with his past. In fact, we get a little hint of this in one of the Gene scenes. Right after Jeff the cab driver confronts him for the second time, Gene gets on the phone with the disappearer, and he's thinking about getting a new identity again because he has been made as Gene, and he has the money to disappear again. But we see something on his face that I think we've seen before. It's that look on his face that says a great idea has come to him. It really reminds me of when he's trying to get Irene's friends to like her again, and he says to Kim, I know what I have to do. It's like a begrudging look on his face, and I feel like we've got the same look there. And then, obviously, in the Sandpiper case, he goes on to sabotage his name in front of the Sandpiper residence with Aaron's help. I get the same feeling that the same thing is happening when he hangs up the phone with Ed the disappearer. An idea has come to his mind that's going to solve his immediate problem. What is that? It could potentially be a payoff to Jeff the cab driver to get him out of his life, but that can't be how the show's going to end. That would be too anticlimactic. Even if that does happen, that one instance of paying off Jeff the cab driver, there's going to be more to Gene's story than just paying off that guy. There's going to be some type of come to Jesus moment for Jimmy. And the question we have now, and I want to ask you, is when he considers everything he's done, is he going to regret what he's done, or will he embrace what he's done? Will he fully recognize the errors of his ways, take responsibility, and make amends and changes in his life, just like Howard and Kim have done before him? Or will he end up like Walt and Mike and Gus, where he fully realizes who he is, what he's done, yet he accepts who he is? I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.